Cranberry is a wetlands plant. It is a small red fruit. The technical name is Vaccinium macrocarpum, and they grow all over northern North America. They're grown commercially primarily in Wisconsin, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Washington, and Oregon. And then there are a lot grown up in Canada. I'm Bill Cutts. I grow cranberries here in the Pinelands in New Jersey. My family's been in it for 3 generations. I actually went to college and law school and practiced law for 13 years before I came back into the cranberry business. This would be my preferred occupation. So when I was able to do that, I gave up my law practice and came back to farming. We have 129 acres of bog area. There are 16 in this section and there are 11 down in the southern section. So there's 27 bogs, if my math is right. In New Jersey, the bogs are kept flooded all winter, and then the water is taken off in early April, and that's to protect the vines. The cranberries have a very shallow root depth, and if you have a lot of really cold weather and it freezes the ground down into below the root depth, then the plant can't take up water and gets dehydrated. And then the bogs are dry. During harvest in September or October, early November, we reflood the bogs for the harvest process. For us, harvest time is sort of a family reunion time. I mean, I have a sister and brother-in-law that come up from Tennessee to help us. It's a great time for us all to be together and to work together. The night before the first day, we flood the bog up so that the water is just about even with the top of the vines. And then we run a machine through that knocks the berries loose from the vines. They float really well. If you cut one open, it has 4 large air chambers in it, which makes it really buoyant. And so they're all, when you flood the bog up, they're all sort of hanging upside down, trying to get to the top and held down by their stems. The stems are a really small, delicate stem. They knock off real easily. So we run a machine through that with bars on it that knocks the berries loose. They all float to the top, and then we raise the water up higher so everything is floating free. And then we put what we call cran boom around the bog and hook it to tractors with blowers on them.
Both tractors drive to our takeout corner, and they just pull the berries with them as they go.
And we set up what's called the bog side cleaner, which actually pumps the berries out of the bog, pumps them up into a box at the top where there's a cleaning process that washes the leaves and grass and that sort of thing off of the berries. Then the berries go into a trailer truck and are delivered to the Ocean Spray receiving station. They go through a cleaning process and are boxed up, so to speak, and either go into freezers to be used later during the year or go to the processing plant in Massachusetts where they're either turned into juice or they are used to make craisins, little things that everybody loves in their salad. If you're the kind of person that likes to suck on lemon wedges, you'll actually enjoy eating raw cranberries. If you don't like sour, you're going to want to eat them in a form that has some added sugar because they are tart. They're used for cooking. People put them in muffins and pancakes and candies, use them in all kinds of meat dishes. My wife has a recipe called Ruby Chicken that you cook them with chicken breasts. My favorite way to use them is what's called cranberry orange relish, where you grind up fresh cranberries and oranges and add a little bit of sugar, and it's really great. The uses are sort of endless. Although we use a lot of water, we don't really consume water. We just sort of borrow it from from the stream until we're done our process, and then we put it back.
We catch the rain with our reservoirs. So we use rainwater to then use the water in each bog to harvest during the season.
We have streams dammed up to create reservoirs where we hold the surface water until we need to use it. And those reservoirs are at a higher elevation than the bogs. And then the water just flows when we let it through the floodgates. It flows from the reservoir into the top bog, and then when we're finished harvesting the top bog, we let the water flow into the next bog down, and so on, right on down the line until we get to the bottom. And then when we're all finished with the water, it just continues on the course that it would have taken if we hadn't slowed it down in the reservoir and held it up for a while. The first thing that people notice here is how quiet it is. If you notice, you don't hear any traffic noise. You can hear the wind in the trees. You really have a sense of being away from it all. It's mostly wooded, a lot of pine trees, which are green all year round, so it's always green. And then the bogs themselves are wide open areas in the middle of all this forest. And then each bog has a dam around it to hold the water in when we flood them. So they don't really look like any other kind of farm. During the growing season, the cranberry bogs are a lot colder than the surrounding areas. And so we can have frost in the cranberry bogs every month of the year. And so we have to protect the plants against frost or they'll freeze and you don't get a crop. We also have to protect them against heat. Late in the summer, as you know, darker colors absorb more heat from the sun, and so when they start to color up, it can actually sort of cook the berries. And then there are all the other weather-related things like not enough rainfall, too much rainfall, hail, and those sort of things. And then also in the growing area, we have things that like to eat our berries in our plants. Then there are regulatory issues. I mean, we grow in wetlands. We have to deal with all the wetlands regulatory issues. We do use materials to control the bugs and the fungus and things, and they're all heavily regulated. We have to deal with them. Like every business, there are all different kinds of problems you have to deal with on a daily basis. What we call cranberry wetlands, which is the bogs and the reservoirs and the ditches and canals and the surrounding open areas. Some people think that they're bad from an ecological point of view because they're different from a natural wetland. But we've actually done studies and we found that there is more wildlife variety and diversity in a cranberry wetland than there is in a pure natural wetland. And that's because the open areas and the bogs provide hunting areas and forage areas for a lot of different animals that they wouldn't have if it were just a swamp. It provides areas for fish and turtles and frogs and things. And so all of that aquatic habitat is really there because of cranberries. You see the kinds of things that you would expect to see out in the pines. I mean, you see deer and foxes and coyotes and beaver and skunks, and all of those things live in and around the bogs, along with turtles and frogs and everything else. But when we flood the bog, we are actually sort of flooding the area where a lot of little critters live in the bogs, things like spiders and crickets and grasshoppers and those kind of things. And so as the water comes up, they keep getting up higher and higher on the vines, and then eventually they get up on top of the berries when the berries are knocked loose. And so when we gather the berries and our pumping them out, there are a lot of spiders and crickets and those kind of critters on top of the berries and on the boom as we're pulling it in. And we like them out there. Things like spiders and some of those other critters are what we call beneficials. They're good bugs that eat what for us are bad bugs. There are bugs that eat our cranberries and eat the plants, and so we're always happy to see things in the bog that eat them. We're a family farm. We have more generations coming along behind us, so hopefully it will continue into the future. You can plan and you can hope, but you never know. I just enjoy being outside. I enjoy being my own boss. I enjoy growing things. I like working with family. Not doing the same thing every day. A whole range of things, not any one thing.